Man Up, a program dedicated to inspiring and helping men live lives of heroic virtue. And now, it's time to Man Up.
Welcome to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. We are broadcasting on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network. I am Joe Stopulos, and today I'm going to discuss a book that I just read and how I think it can apply to our lives in more ways than just our spiritual life, our physical life, our financial life, all these things. It's called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. I thought it had a lot of great takeaways for us, and I think that apply to all facets of our life. And I thought it was worth kind of diving into his philosophy and kind of some of these takeaways. I think there's a lot of things we can implement, especially I think during Lent, that there are many things we could just start doing today to help us for many, many years to come. And so let's start in prayer, and then we'll dive into it. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. The book was actually recommended to me. So if you're in this space, if you read self-help books, business books, these types of things, this is one of those ones that you'll kind of see with some frequency, right? So if you see someone has Good to Great on their bookshelf, or the EOS book Traction, oftentimes somewhere in these books is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And I'd never read it before, and a buddy of mine, one of my good friends from work here, had suggested it at we had our big sales summit a few weeks back, and he said, my one piece of advice to everyone, especially to the young producers of our company, is to read The Slight Edge. And that's enough for me to say, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I think the reason it was so impactful for me is that it's a pretty simple philosophy. I also tend to agree with everything already, but he verbalizes it in a way that I think is really applicable for all of us. And so I thought, okay, I read through it, and there's so many things that parallel what we talk about on this show about just becoming a better person, and the way he kind of frames it, I think does a good job of doing that. And as I mentioned earlier, it is Lent still. We're still in the middle of this time of Lent, this time of growing closer to the Lord very intentionally, right? By doing acts of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, and hopefully creating habits. And I will say one thing that I have, knock on wood, we'll talk about it later. We'll see how it turns out in the summer. But what I've done this Lent with Exodus, I truly believe is something I could do the rest of my life the way that I'm doing it. I'm not, I'm moderating alcohol. I've basically cut out sugars pretty significantly, and these are things that I've created in such a way that I believe that these are habits I could do. When you're doing Exodus full on, it's impossible. You almost shouldn't do it for the rest of your life, because there's so much fasting, and it's almost it's almost too much. But the way I'm kind of doing it this Lent, it seems like this might be a healthy way to live the rest of my life. All that to say, we're trying to hopefully have better habits. We're emphasizing prayer more often. We're doing these things during this time of Lent, and I thought the reflection on The Slight Edge on this book, hopefully as we're looking into the Easter season, what can we bring with us? What are these habits that we're trying to instill? What are these goals that we're trying to set for our spiritual life, for our personal life, to grow closer and look more like the Lord? And then how can we physically do those? How can we implement those things? And I thought that this book will be a good resource for all of us as we're looking at that. So I'm going to head to a short break, and when we return, I'll be diving deep into the book The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio comes from the Catholic Tuition Organization. Contributions to CTO help pave the way for students to experience opportunity, greater knowledge, self-esteem, and success through Catholic education. CTO awards at least 90% of all annual revenue to eligible families. Applications for tuition assistance are being accepted now through April 15th. Learn more about how the Catholic Tuition Organization is a great investment in kids and their futures at ctoiowa.org. The bottom line is it's for the kids and their futures.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Des Moines, where empowering individuals and strengthening families have been the cornerstone of care for a century. Services for neighbors in need include a food pantry, professional counseling, emergency family shelter, and refugee resettlement. At Catholic Charities, lives are transformed and you can be part of the mission. To learn more about how to help Catholic Charities fulfill Christ's promise of help and hope, visit CatholicCharitiesDM.org.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio comes from John Leonetti, EOS Implementer, the entrepreneurial operating system, helping businesses and organizations clarify, simplify, and achieve their vision. John.Leonetti at EOSWorldwide.com.
Confluence Brewing Company, a former homebrewer's dream, is now a hub where great things come together. Situated south of Grays Lake and easily accessible via the bike trail in Des Moines. Thank you, Confluence Brewing Company, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Help connect listeners to Christ. Tell a friend about Iowa Catholic Radio. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio comes from Caldwell Parish Funeral Home and Crematory. Caldwell Parish offers services that are unique to the individual while following the Catholic funeral rites. Caldwell Parish Funeral Home and Crematory, Des Moines' only Catholic-owned and operated funeral home.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Ashworth Vision Clinic. Complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and urgent eye issues. 515-440-4610. AshworthVision.com.
My help comes from you. You're right here.
Welcome back to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. Going to discuss the book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. As I mentioned in the first part, I just read this book a couple weeks ago now, and it really hit me hard on a lot of the ways that he explains the power of time, for one, and the power of habits, good habits, for one. I would also say that if you've read books like The Power of Habit, if you've read books like Good to Great, if you've read any of these kind of self-help, personal help books, he's not going to recreate the wheel here. In this book, it's not what he does. What he does is he lays out a way to take all of the great knowledge from all of these great authors and put them into something that is applicable. His point is he starts the whole book off with this, he calls it the beach bum and the millionaire. And he describes two people. Both have the exact same upbringing. Both went to the same high school. Both have the exact same grades. One went off to, and that's basically where they split off. And one goes off to college and gets really good grades and creates many successful companies and becomes a multi-millionaire. And the other one becomes a beach bum in Florida, basically working out on the beach, getting fit, drinking every night, hanging out, and then like caddying during the day and doing lawn care at a golf course during the day. And he says, what was the difference between these two guys, these two people who had the exact same upbringing? What was it that was the differential there? And his answer to that is that it was the slight edge. It was these little habits, these little decisions. And he goes, the reason he knows this is because he was both people. Right after he graduated high school, he went straight to Florida basically after a semester, dropped out of college, and lived a life of dissipation more than anything, and just was broke and was basically working for the people who had money, who had made good decisions in their life. And then at some point he shapes up, goes to college, puts himself to work, works hard, does all the things he's going to talk about, and becomes a multi-millionaire, starts many companies over. And so his point on all of this is that the edge between someone who's making millions and millions of dollars and who has a great marriage and great kids and who all these things, has their life in order, and the person who doesn't, isn't some chasm of decisions. It's usually just a lot of little decisions. And so this book says he ended up getting into a lot of the self-help type publishing and radio series and going to these conferences. And that was essentially the company he worked for, what they did. He said he got frustrated because people would get really excited for 30 days or 20 days or 50 days. But after a while, their motivation will cease. And I think you see this a lot. Obviously, the easy way to look at it is diets, right? Someone gets on a diet, they get really excited, they take it really seriously. I mean, this is New Year's resolutions 101, right? And then after about 20 days or 30 days, that excitement wears off and it gets really hard. And they're trying to bite out more than they can chew. Come back to this Lent example. We're all in the middle of this desert season. And if we're doing something really, really hard, we're probably not supposed to be doing that our whole life. But there is a level of little changes that we can make forever. And so he said, I actually saw that what was happening with these people is that in many cases, they were actually worse off than if they would have done nothing. Because now, again, going to diets, going to whatever these things are they're doing, they have basically told themselves they can't do it. They're not good enough to do it because after the 30 days, they quit on themselves. And his argument is that that's not what should have happened. You should just do very small decisions, very small little things that seem insignificant at first, but compounded over time make an enormous difference. And the example he uses is a story. And the story is about a father who, at the end of his life, essentially gives his kids, he has two sons, and he tells them as he's dying, you can get back to me tomorrow or next week or whatever it is. When I die, at the end of the week or whatever these things are, you will get either $1 million cash or over the next 30 days, I'll give you a penny. You'll get a penny the first day into your account, and the second day you'll get 2 pennies, and the third day you'll get 4 pennies, and those double every day. And those are your choices. So one is day one you get $1 million, and the other one is a penny doubled for a course of a month. And the power of the story is, the one brother takes the $1 million, hires accountants, hires lawyers, figures out what to do with it, and he ends up like in the red because he had spent so much money trying to figure out how he's going to maximize his $1 million, and it just doesn't go super well. The other one is that a penny doubled for 31 days straight ends up being $10 million at the end of it. And it's really hard for your mind to wrap your head around a penny being doubled and being $10 million, but that is the power of time. And so that is the example he uses throughout the book. And I thought, man, that is a great way to look at the power of a small choice of an investment. Now, you think about that I think we've all hopefully seen those stats, especially if you're in your 20s. It's never too late to start. But, man, if you're in your 20s and you see what it's like to save 5% or 10% of your income, what that does over time to your income by the time you're 65 or 70 or 75. The power of compounding interest is incredible. And so he takes this idea that a lot of us know just from money and brings it into everyday life. Brings it into your relationships, brings it into your family, brings it into your prayer life, brings it into all of these things, because, life is not just about, obviously, money is not just about your career. It's about all these things. And that is where I found that this had a really good parallel to what we do here on the show, what I talk about on the show. And, I think just finishing the Jordan Peterson 12 Rules for Life, one of the rules is don't compare yourself with who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. Why is that important? Well, I think all of us, and it's so easy to do, get caught up in the game of comparison, right? C.S. Lewis famously wrote that comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that is one of the most true statements ever made. So easy for us to compare ourselves to somebody else. And I think especially in the Instagram world, right, people love picking and choosing the pictures that they're going to show, but they're not showing what's going on behind the pictures. We cannot control what goes on in other people's lives. We can control what goes on in our life. And the only person that we should be comparing ourselves to is who we were yesterday. Are we better than that? Can we get better than that every day? And if that's the case, this compounding momentum, the compounding power of making good choices every day, even small little choices, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, small little choices every single day over the course of time have enormous influences and impacts. And so the first major chapter when he gets into, so he kind of sets the stage for what this looks like. It's chapter 4 called Mastering the Mundane. It's saying that committing yourself to doing routine tasks in your job, in your prayer life, into whatever these things are, and committing to doing them consistently, that's it. That's the secret sauce. So it's not about becoming Michael Jordan tomorrow. You're not going to. And that's another chapter later on about how this, overnight success is a myth. That doesn't happen. But what does happen is little tiny things every day. I do remember another sports analogy. Ray Allen, it was right after he made the three-pointer, 2016 NBA Finals. I can't remember which would be the step back. I think it was against, maybe it was against the Celtics. I don't know if it was the finals or not. Anyway, makes an incredible three-pointer to keep them alive in Game 6. And somebody said something like, hey, you just have this beautiful God-given shot. Like you just have a natural, beautiful shot. It's like poetry in motion. And Ray Allen goes something along the lines of like, that it's not natural. What you didn't see in that shot is I've practiced that shot a million times. I've spent so many hours of my life in the gym literally practicing that step back. I knew I was in the three-point line. I take a step back. I, in motion, in rhythm, do it. That was not natural. That was actually not natural at all. It took him a ton of work to be able to craft his skill to be able to do that. But it was through doing little things like taking a step back and shooting a three-pointer over and over and over and over and over again, where he mastered the mundane. He mastered the simple so that later on, when he needed to, he could be a master at it. Okay, that was a little daily action of practicing constantly. But we only see the overnight success. We see the big shots. Okay. The results, he says over and over again, the results are invisible at the beginning. So these little daily actions that are easy to do, but they're also not easy to do. In the eating realm, he talks about, eating a cheeseburger today is not going to kill you. It just won't. And not eating the cheeseburger won't make you have 5% body fat tomorrow. But it's a little daily activity that is easy to do, and it's not easy to do, but it's going to start you in the right path. And then tomorrow, you got to make the same decision. And the next day, you got to make the same decision. Not working out today is not going to kill you. It's not. But it's not going to make you better. Not praying today is not going to hurt your relationship with the Lord, hopefully in some detrimental way. But by praying today, it will help it. You will go in a better direction, and you can start with momentum. So he talks about a lot of momentum. He says these little actions may seem insignificant, but they add up. They add up, especially through momentum. You can see how just committing yourself today, again, during Lent's an important time to do this, saying, I'm doing the 15 minutes. I'm doing 15 minutes today of prayer. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it every day until Easter. And then get to Easter and say, all right, I want to celebrate this Easter season by doing 15 minutes a day of prayer. And that's it. That's all we're asking. That's all it is. Maybe the Lord does get in your heart and say, give me 20. Give me 30. Give me one day of adoration a week. But doing it, you're right. Not praying today is not going to be the end of the world. It's not. But by praying, you become better. And then you also become the kind of person who prays, and you make that habit of prayer. You can see this in all walks of life. Again, not working out today is not going to kill you. Not going for that run today is not going to kill you. But over time, it will. Chapter 5 is slow down to go fast. And this is, I actually like this in a lot of parts of life, especially in business, in the business world. But you got to get the fundamentals down to achieve goals. Don't run constantly. Go slow at times. He uses the tortoise and the hare analogy here. But go consistently and go and do it efficiently. So go well, go in the right direction, and go constantly, consistently in that direction. And again, back to the spiritual life. Sometimes we read these books and we're like, okay, I want to be like St. John of the Cross. Okay, you're not going to do that. First off, if you have 6 kids, you're not going to be John of the Cross. If you're married, you're not John of the Cross, right? Period. You have a different vocation, period, end of story. And if you're a priest with 2 parishes and all these other things, it's really hard to do that. You can't do it. It's not your lot in life. So I think we all see these heroes that we want to be like, and we want to sprint to become like them. Well, that's not what our call was, right? That's not what we're called to do. And so as we're going slow, whether it's in the spiritual life, the physical life, whatever it is, again, it's really hard. This goes back to that Jordan Peterson, not comparing ourselves. I think oftentimes we want to be at that peak level. We want to be at the mountaintop. Well, you can't get to the mountaintop without doing the journey. And that's why comparison in this realm is really important, to stay out of that. You got to stay out of that game and just compare yourself to who you were yesterday and try to get better. Chapter 7, he talks about the secret of happiness. And there's a lot here about positivity in his book, and then a lot of these other books just talk about the power of, so there is a book called The Power of Positive Thinking. Oh, who's it by? I'm not going to be able to get it, but I've read that one too. And The Power of Positive Thinking, optimists in general, people who tend to see the glass half full, are happier. He used an example of, if a husband loves 5 things about his wife and hates 20 things about his wife and only thinks about those 20 things that he hates about instead of the 5 things that he loves, he's going to be miserable. He's going to have a bad marriage, and he will not be grateful for the 5 that he has. People who concentrate on the good, who think of the good, they will be happier. They will be more successful in all walks of life. They'll have a better relationship with the Lord. They'll have a better relationship with their friends. They'll be healthier. All of these things happen by being happy. And again, some people are naturally optimistic. Some people aren't. But he gives some tips on ways to do it. So gratitude journals every day, writing down 3 new things you're thankful for. Thinking of doing something positive for someone else. Praying daily. So praying daily, giving gratitude to God every day. Again, I would say 15 minutes every day of giving gratitude to God. So orienting yourself to be the kind of person who is thankful for these things. One random act of kindness is doing something nice for somebody every day. So at the beginning of your day, realize, okay, I'm going to do one nice thing for somebody today. that compounding effect of becoming the person who habitually does nice things for other people, that will have compounding effects for you, not just in the short term, but for very long times to go. Exercising 15 minutes a day. I'm going to do a series here shortly on exercise, on fitness and nutrition. And exercising for 15 minutes, and God created us to have a body. Obviously, that's what we're in, right? And so maximizing, the literature is there that you will be a happier person, you'll be a healthier person. Again, your relationship with God, you'll be able to be more in tune with Him. You just will be if you exercise. And again, and we'll dive deeper into this in the next few weeks, but 15 minutes a day, simple cardio, brisk walk, that'll do it. I mean, that's enough. I would argue that we should all do more than that, but at least something like that, it actually triggers antidepressant responses, just a 15-minute walk. He also talks about reading 10 pages of a good book each day. So that would be another thing you can do. My point on all those things is he doesn't say do all 6 of them. Just do one of them. Start with one. Praying, exercising, whatever these things are. Get that become a habit, and then maybe add another one. Another simple task. These simple things over time, over not just months, but over years, and then over decades, have tremendous effects. And not just effects in your life, but in the effects of all those around you. Think of how much better you will be as a person, as a husband, as a father, as a coworker. How much more engaged you could be at your parish. If you become the kind of person that prays 30 minutes a day, now all of a sudden, you're really in tune with what the Lord wants from you. Now you can start bringing other people along and show them, hey, here's how I got to where I'm at. I'm not down on the cross. No, I'm not going to be, but I'm a dad. I'm a whatever. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a coworker. And here's how I got in tune with the Lord. It's just through this little thing I did. The ripple effect of you taking these little steps. And I think the reason this is so good is because it's so doable. The next chapter talks about you have to start with a penny. And he says these good habits, it just starts with one step. Taking that first step. Just getting out and doing it. Again, back to the cheeseburger. It's not going to kill you today. It's not going to kill you tomorrow. Drinking the pop, having one pop today is not going to kill you. It's the 10,000th pop that's going to kill you. But just saying, okay, today's the day I'm done with pop. I'm just done. And tomorrow you make that same decision, same decision. Over time, that will have enormous ramifications. Again, back to the financing thing. If you just save your money today, if you save X amount of money every day and put it away into a savings vehicle, whatever it is, those numbers over time are incredible. It's the same thing for our health. And I've mentioned this in the show before in the spiritual life. We're not, you can never really stay the same. We're either growing closer to the Lord, we're either growing in health, we're either growing in discipline or whatever these things are, in virtue, or we're not. Like, you're not staying still. And so you have to practice. You have to always reach for the good, right? We're either going to be living a life that's full of meaning or not. And that's, these choices rarely are the choices we're making in life these grandiose, huge, you can tell, you can feel you're on the precipice of something big. That's not normal. What's normal is the everyday little choices that we're all having to make. Here's a chapter on learning from mentors. Again, I talked a lot about finding people around you. And who are they in whatever aspect of life we're talking about here? Because there's a lot of these various aspects of life, whether it's physical, whether it's financially, whether it's spiritually, whether it's career-oriented, whether it's a father, whether it's a husband. There are mentors around you, and you need to learn from them. Chapter 15, he talks about cultivating habits, slight edge habits. So he says showing up consistently, cultivating a positive outlook, being committed to a goal for the long haul, nurturing a burning desire supported by faith. So all of these things, again, none of these are crazy, just showing up. It's showing up being positive. It's showing up consistently being positive. It's finding a goal. It's thinking of a goal and sticking with it. None of these things are all that life-changing until they are. So a few of the kind of the categories I would put, I already talked about faith life, right? So that you can see how this could play out in the faith life. just doing a little bit every single day, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Maybe this year, you hadn't gone to Stations of the Cross on Fridays. Maybe you got a few of these left. We're going to Stations of the Cross on Friday. Maybe I don't go to First Friday Mass. Now I start going to First Friday Mass. I never used to go to Adoration. I'm going to start going to Adoration once a week, 20 minutes once a week, adding in little tiny habits every day, every week. Friendships, close relationships, getting rid of close relationships and friendships that aren't bringing you closer. You have to get rid of those ones that are not helping you, right? If you have friends that are not, that are taking you away from what the Lord wants from you, you have to get rid of it. So think of your 5 closest friends. If one of them, you take out one who's toxic and replace it with one who's striving for greatness and holiness, that's it. You just make that one change, one out, one in. That the ramifications of that decision are huge. And eventually, the ripple effects have impact outside of your finances, personal development, happiness, but they have an impact on the world, on all the people around you. Right? So if you're growing as a person, if you're becoming a better person by doing these little things every day, your impact is not just on your own personal impact. It is to all those around you. The ripple effects are huge. So thank you for joining me on those. Again, I think hopefully you can see. Again, I'd recommend reading the book, The Slight Edge, but hopefully you can see where the power of this plays in all parts of our life. So think about those things in your life. What are those little tiny things you can come up with? What's one thing today or one thing tomorrow that you can do to become a better person than you are today? Head to a short break, and we'll be right back.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry. Sarah is an apostolate dedicated to the support of new and existing vocations to the priesthood and consecrated life. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org.
Support for programming is provided by Construction Professionals, serving customers through a proven process, creating unique design, functionality, and artistic beauty. Construction Professionals is a Catholic family business built on a strong foundation. cpcustomhomes.com.
The All Saints Fish Fry each Friday of Lent from 5 to 7 p.m. Enjoy fried pollock, grilled cheese, side dishes, drinks, and desserts. 650 Northeast 52nd Avenue in Des Moines. Thank you, Council 10282, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Fast Signs is a custom sign and visual solutions company with an extensive selection of digital signage, interior and exterior signs, banners, and vehicle wraps. Learn more at fastsigns.com. Thank you, Fast Signs in Clive, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
My help comes from you. You're right here.
Welcome back to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. A quote here that I think I'll spend the last couple minutes kind of pondering on. He says, your philosophy creates your attitudes, which create your actions, which create your results, which creates your life. So your philosophy, so what you believe, that picture in your head, who do you want to be? We've talked about this in the past. Think about it. Think of those heroes, those people you want to be like when it comes to your work, when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your faith, whatever these things are. Put that picture in your mind's eye. What your philosophy, the person you want to become, that will create that picture, what you're going towards. Creates your attitudes, which then create your actions, which will create your results, which will create your life. Again, I that's what I think maybe I'm almost 40, right? I'm in this 38-year-old stage of life where you realize how fast it goes, right? You realize just how fast life happens. And so taking it seriously and concentrating on doing these little things well, showing up, being consistent, doing these little things well in all areas of our life, just making one little small tweak today, and making it tomorrow and the next day can have major ramifications, not just in my life, but the lives of all those around me. So thank you for joining me today on Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. I am Joe Stopulos. It's time to man up.
Man Up, inspiring men to live out their call to holiness.